Did it because you thought I'd be a bit kinder to you in my speech than some of your schoolmates? I don't know. And whether you were right to think that, I don't know either. But all will become apparent pretty quickly. I guess one advantage I do have over other prospective best man candidates is that I have, of course, known you your whole life. And so hopefully I can offer a bit of perspective on the journey you've taken from the charming, if spoilt, young brat to the wise old head, sort of, that sitting here today. So let's start at the beginning, or at least somewhere near it. As some of you may know, Hugh fancied himself as something of a sophisticated young man. One of my earlier memories of him is of him coming home from school one day, aged about 6, and proudly announcing to the family that he decided to change his name. To what? To what, we all asked, genuinely curious. He paused, then with a curl of the lip that I can only describe as part Teutonic, part Hispanic, said that henceforth he wanted to be known as Luis Mateus Blanchino. You'll always be Luis Mateus. He was also something of a headstrong youngster, again, as some of you may know. Another early memory of him, and an often recounted story, is of Hugh proudly representing the Kingshot under-11 Colts football team, getting increasingly agitated at the level of parental instruction that was being offered from the touchline, seeking out my father on said touchline, walking over to him and yelling, "Look, Dad, just shut up, right?" It's all true. Not long after that, again, Hugh and my father were involved, this time in a rather more serious incident. And again, as many of you will know, when they were caught up in the IRA bomb that went off in Victoria Station in, I believe, 1991. This gave us as a family our first, and who knows, perhaps only experience of what life is like on the front pages of the national newspapers. I don't expect you to remember. I can't say it was a totally comfortable experience, but if nothing else, it did show us a bit about what life is actually like and how the national newspapers get put together. I remember my father having a conversation with a reporter from the Evening Standard, and idly speculating that he'd been a bit surprised that, although he'd been standing right next to Hugh at the time that the bomb had gone off, Dad had emerged pretty much totally unscathed, whereas Hugh had been quite badly hurt. We checked the paper the next day to see a headline screaming out at us, "Anguished father says, why couldn't it have been me?" And Dad was only too happy to take the plaudits for such stuff. We did also get a number of perks, or mostly to Hugh, of course, but out of this incident. Again, some of you may know these, but Hugh is the proud winner of a Woman's Own Child's Courage Award. Which he got to collect from a hero of his at the time, Fergie. He also was given a much coveted closing slot on John Craven's newsletter. In front of the whole family, Mr. Craven signed off the programme with the unlikely words, "Hugh Carling, very brave young man." Perhaps the nicest perk we got out of the whole incident was and it was a perk that the whole family got to enjoy, was an all-expenses paid trip to the Caribbean to watch an Australia versus West Indies series that was going on there. Yeah. And we got a number of invites while we were out there, including to a players' barbecue the night before the Barbados Test, I think it was. And a chance for Hugh to meet some of his genuine heroes, including then Aussie legend Merv Hughes. Merv obviously singled out Hugh as a like mind. put his arm around his shoulder and said to him, "Look, son, just stay off the beer and the fags and stick to the coke and the burgers, and you'll be right." The rest, as they say, is history. We'll move on to the next phase in Hugh's life. This is when he came to join me at Stowe. He was already something of a changed man by this stage. He'd read Richard Branson's autobiography, and he was something of a young man in a hurry. He wanted that first million by the end of the third form. And so was born Mode 7, the company that was going to revolutionise the delivery of computer games consoles from Southeast Asia direct to homes in the UK. His sidekick at the time, Mr. George Boyd Gibbons, and I'm sure by Hugh that it was his responsibility, failed to affix a postage stamp to the first purchase order that Mode 7 sent out. Then, in a wave of acrimony, mutual backstabbing, and other such teenage behaviour, they decided to disband the partnership and go their separate ways. But there were, of course, the other business ventures, and we'll go on to those a bit later on. Stowe was also a place where Hugh discovered his true roots. And to the surprise of many of us who knew him well, these turned out to be a ghetto somewhere in south-central Los Angeles. But thankfully, the influence of Ice-T on his life proved relatively short-lived. In all honesty, I can't say the Stowe years were the best years in terms of the relationship between the two of us. But true to form, Hugh wasn't averse to milking that to his own advantage.
Things haven't been going so well with Adam lately.
He'd been known to mutter to various tutors as another assignment. But these years were also a time of growing maturity for Hugh. And as if to test this theory, his godparents, Nigel and Stephanie, who I'm pleased to say are here with us today, decided he was ready to be entrusted with the responsibility of babysitting their children. Oh yes. And all went well for the first part of the evening. But after the children, Alexander and Michelle, have been safely tucked upstairs in bed, Hugh's, not for the first time, his idle curiosity got the better of him. His attention turned to the newly installed Sky TV box. And scrolling through the channels, Hugh was to find out that in the early days of Sky TV, not all the adult channels were subscription only. This proved far too much for the impression of the young. So he settled down for the evening. You set up. Scroll forward about 3 hours to find Nigel and Stephanie, freshly returned from their evening out, standing at the sitting room, the entrance to the sitting room. Hugh, fast asleep on the sofa. The TV still on, and various telltale noises emanating from it. Quick as a flash, Hugh leapt up, grabbed a nearby remote control, and started jabbing away at it furiously. All to no avail, sadly, because he picked up the hi-fi remote. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he was invited back.
Yeah, you hadn't recorded it.
Following on from Stowe and a gap year, I think the fruitiest details of which escape me, probably just as well. Hugh pitched up at Manchester University, or at least that's what he told us. Warrington Collegiate Institute is, I believe, its actual name. I can't say that the academic life was ideally suited to our buddy Richard Branson, but he did clock up one achievement of note, taking 18 months to attend enough lectures to realise that a psychology degree wasn't for him. So he switched degrees, and then 3 years later, Julie came back to London, having done the hard work and got himself a degree. By this stage, he really was a man in a hurry. He was ready to take on the media types and the capitalists in the city at their own game. And so was born Liveline Media, an internet-based fantasy top 40 game that many of you in this room will have heard about, and many of us will have heard about in quite excruciating detail. But I'm not going to go into the details now. I think suffice to say that Liveline Media was a learning and frankly pretty expensive experience for During his downtime at Liveline, Hugh was forced to take a job in a pub in London to supplement his income, which, if nothing else, gave rise to this memorable exchange with his old Kingston schoolmate Phil Ogilvie, who again I'm pleased to say is with us today. Phil to Hugh. Hugh, I always thought you were one of those people that by the time you were 25, you'd either have made $1 million or been in prison. Here we are, we're both 25, and you're serving me a beer in a pub in the arse end of West London. I don't know if he replied this, but you just know what Hugh was thinking at the time. Next year, Rodney, next year. And I'm pleased to say, even if he hasn't quite made the first $1 million yet, unless I just haven't been told, but the things have gone markedly better ever since that particular incident. Hugh surprised us all by getting and then holding down a regular job at Knosco for 2 years. And many of his former colleagues are of course here with us this evening. But since then, it's arguably been further onward and upward. He set up a new business, this time with his partner Kyle, who again is here with us this evening. And I'm told that only 6 months into the operation, their client list includes L'Oreal, Cadbury's, and South West Trains. Actually, I'm not sure if they've bagged South West Trains yet, but I'm told it's a formality.
That's for you, Kyle.
There is, of course, one very important part of his life that I haven't mentioned at all yet, and that is the presence by his side over the last 8 years of Katie. Katie, as we know, has introduced you to many things. I'm not going to list them all, but to name a few, to Italy, to culture, to good food, and to a series of Nicole Fari jumpers in what can only be described as frankly pretty daring shades of pastel. I've battled bloody nice colours, depending on perspective. But Hugh, I have to say, it takes a real man to look that cat. All right, and now for the serious bit. Hugh, I've never been able to say this just between the two of us, so I hope everybody else is going to bear with me for this bit. It was a very proud moment in my life when you asked me to be your best man, and of course I was delighted to accept. I often think that when things were being given out at birth, I was the one who was given a certain amount of bloody-minded perseverance, which has served me okay in life. You were the one, on the other hand, who got given all the charm. And that is why everybody loves you. And that is why I have absolutely no doubt that everybody will stand now and drink a toast and wish you a very long and happy life with your beautiful bride, Katie.